A man bought a woman a drink, then acted as though he had bought the rest of her evening. In many Western saloons and dance halls, he had paid for conversation, one dance, or another drink for the house. He had not paid for permission to touch her, take her upstairs, or leave with her. The trouble started when he refused to understand the difference. Dawson City made that difference unusually clear during the Klondike Rush. In 1898, the dance halls along Front Street charged as much as $1 for a dance. At midnight, minors could still be buying dances while drinking and gambling carried on toward breakfast. The customer paid the hall. The woman collected a ticket, or had the dance entered to her account. In common Dawson arrangements, she might receive 25 cents from the dance and about 1/4 of the price of drinks bought for her. The house kept the larger share and paid the orchestra, bartenders, and its own considerable bills. That was the business behind the smiles. A customer bought a measured piece of attention, one dance, one drink, a few minutes at a table. By 1898, Charlie Kimball's Pavilion had become one of Dawson's most expensive entertainment buildings, reportedly costing as much as $100,000 to construct and decorate. Champagne in the boomtown could reach $60 a bottle. With money moving at that level, managers watched every dance, every drink, and every minute an employee spent with one man. Generosity still had to pass through the cash box. At the Palace Grand Theater, where Kathleen Rockwell later became famous as Klondike Kate, entertainment also included stage acts. Rockwell was a professional performer who could earn hundreds of dollars in a strong night. Gertie Lovejoy, remembered for the diamond between her front teeth, also worked the Dawson halls. Neither woman's stage fame turned every man in the room into a private customer. A drink might begin a conversation. It did not create a promise that the conversation would continue after work. The job depended on the building and the license behind it. A saloon mainly sold liquor. A dance hall sold music and paid companionship on the floor. A hurdy-gurdy house was an earlier form of dance hall where men paid to dance with women hired for that purpose. A concert saloon added songs, comic acts, and table service. A theater sold a stage performance. A parlor house was a high-priced brothel. A brothel sold sexual services. Some establishments combined 2 or 3 of those businesses, but the names were not decorative. They told you what was being sold. Newspapers often ignored those differences. A reporter looking for a vice story could describe a dancer, a waitress, an actress, and a prostitute with the same insulting label. Later memoirs repeated the habit because one wicked saloon girl was easier to remember than 4 separate occupations with different rules. The result still causes trouble. A woman who encouraged a minor to buy champagne might also sell sex, but that cannot be assumed from her job at the table. Another woman could dance 50 times in one night and refuse every proposition after the music stopped. The house also had its own boundary. Owners did not want customers getting attention without paying the house. A man who tried to pull a dancer into a long private conversation was not merely being annoying. He was blocking the next ticket, the next drink, and the next commission. A woman who accepted cash directly could be accused of stealing from the proprietor, even when the customer thought he was giving her a harmless tip. The first forbidden act was often not sex. It was bypassing the transaction that kept the hall open. Once the music started, the next boundary became physical. 19th century dance manuals show a world of waltzes, polkas, quadrilles, and round dances. Partners held each other, but the hold had a form. Hands had expected positions. Couples moved through figures that other people could see. This was not a modern nightclub where nobody could tell whether a customer was dancing, falling over, or attempting a wrestling move. That public setting mattered. A woman could stop moving, step away, refuse another dance, or call to a bartender. Another dancer might intervene. A floor manager could remove a man who was drunk, grabbing, or refusing to pay. In a well-run hall, the owner's interest and the woman's interest briefly matched. A disruptive customer frightened other customers, interrupted sales, and risked police attention. Removing him protected the floor and the cash box at the same time. But moral reformers often used the language of protection for a different purpose. They attacked certain dances as improper, indecent, or vulgar, even when both partners had agreed to them. On San Francisco's Pacific Street, new dances, including the Texas Tommy, became part of the Barbary Coast attraction after the earthquake of 1906. Spider Kelly's and the Thalia drew tourists who wanted to see what newspapers had promised. Was shocking behavior. Some movements were staged for the crowd. Some were genuine social dances. Reformers treated the whole floor as evidence of corruption. A woman's refusal was more specific. She might accept the ordinary hold used for a waltz and reject a hand moving lower. She might agree to one turn around the floor and refuse a kiss when the music ended. She could be comfortable with close dancing and still refuse to leave the room. Consent did not spread from one act to the next. A paid dance established what she had agreed to do for that dance. Nothing more. The surviving record is stronger on police language than on private house rules. Arrest reports and reform surveys repeatedly mention vulgar dancing, women soliciting drinks, disorderly conduct, and assaults inside entertainment halls. Those labels have to be read carefully. Disorderly could mean a violent patron. It could also mean a woman arguing with a policeman. Improper dancing could mean unwanted touching. It could also mean a reformer disliked the dance itself. The words sound precise until you ask who wrote them. San Francisco Police Commissioner Jesse Cook made the official position clearer in 1912 and 1913. His campaign targeted dance halls, bright signs, women employees, and saloons that mixed liquor with dancing. On September 22, 1913, the Police Commission ordered that no dancing be permitted in cafes, restaurants, or saloons selling liquor in the Barbary Coast District after the end of that month. It also barred women patrons and women employees from the district's saloons. The rule did not teach customers to respect dancers. It removed dancers from licensed drinking rooms. The Thalia tried to survive by presenting itself as respectable. Its sign announced, "This is a clean place for clean people. No minors allowed." That did not save the old business model. When dancing and liquor were separated, closed dance halls appeared nearby. Men bought 10-cent tickets for dances lasting less than 2 minutes. About 600 women worked in those halls. Again, the ticket purchased one dance. The city's solution to misconduct was not better enforcement on the floor. It was to move the women and the dancing somewhere else. Public visibility could restrain a patron, at least when bartenders, musicians, and other dancers were willing to act. The doorway to a private room changed that balance. It removed witnesses. It also fed the most persistent myth about Western saloons, the claim that every staircase led to a brothel. It did not. Some saloons had no second floor. Some had storage, offices, card rooms, or rented lodging above the bar. A hotel saloon might have bedrooms upstairs because it was a hotel. That did not prove the bartender was arranging sex. A dance hall could have a stage, dressing rooms, and a balcony without operating a brothel. The building has to be checked before the story is told. Denver's Market Street shows why. By 1892, a visitor could find saloons, dance halls, gambling rooms, cheap lodging, common brothels, and expensive parlor houses within the same district. Men moved between them. Reporters described them together, and later writers often treated the entire street as one large business. It was not. A quarter bought a dance from many hall women. A different payment at a documented brothel bought a different service. Jenny Rogers made that distinction visible in brick and polished wood. In 1889, she opened the House of Mirrors at 1942 Market Street. Architect William Quayle designed the building as a brothel, not as an ordinary corner saloon with a mysterious staircase. Laura Evans later described a ballroom lined with mirrors and high-backed chairs. The women were permitted to sit on the smaller seats beside those chairs. The arrangement controlled where workers sat, where customers waited, and how the room looked. Mattie Silks operated another Denver parlor house. When she and Court Thompson arrived in the city in 1876, their 3-story establishment reportedly held 27 rooms and 12 women. Those numbers matter. They describe a building organized for prostitution. The same evidence cannot be borrowed and pasted onto every saloon on Market Street. Butte, Montana, offers another clear comparison. Joseph and Arthur Nadeau built the Dumas in 1890 at 45 East Mercury Street. It followed the plan of a respectable rooming house, with a central hall and skylight, parlors and dining space on the first floor, and private rooms above. Grace McGinnis managed it by 1900. Around the turn of the century, the price of sex there could be 50 cents, and the woman reportedly received about 40%. In 1902, Only 5 working women and 1 musician were recorded there. This was a brothel with a documented room system, not a dance hall being accused by rumor. A mixed business could complicate matters. Some concert saloons combined liquor, stage acts, dancing, and prostitution. Some women sold sex after their paid shift or in another building. That private transaction did not automatically become part of every dance she sold earlier. An owner might forbid her to leave during working hours because he wanted her selling tickets and drinks. The city might forbid solicitation in the saloon. The woman herself might refuse the customer entirely. Those were 3 different boundaries, even when they pointed toward the same door. The danger was that a customer rarely knew which rule had stopped him, and sometimes did not care. He might hear no from the woman, not during your shift from the owner, and no women in the wine room from the city ordinance. He could decide all 3 were temporary obstacles. That was when leaving together became more than a private choice. It could cost the woman her job, expose the proprietor to a fine, or place her alone with a man who already believed payment had purchased obedience. Money made the confusion worse, because every form of attention had a price attached. Drinks, dance tickets, table time, gifts, room charges, and tips could all pass through the same evening. Owners wanted those payments visible. A private gift could be genuine, but it could also hide a side agreement. A direct payment could be a tip, an invitation, a loan, or payment for sex. The house usually preferred one answer. Money belonged in the house system. On the Barbary Coast, women called pretty waiter girls earned wages and commissions for encouraging drink sales. At the larger halls, the woman might be serving drinks, dancing, and appearing in a chorus. Some also sold sex after hours. Some did not. The owner profited whenever the customer ordered another round, which gave the employee a reason to keep him seated and gave him a dangerous reason to think her attention was personal. Stories about colored water and fake liquor appear constantly in later Western writing. The basic arrangement is believable. A woman needed to encourage repeated drinks without becoming too intoxicated to work. A house could serve her tea, water, or a weaker mixture while charging the customer for liquor. But the exact recipe and the claim that every woman used it are usually folklore. The safe conclusion is narrower. Some venues substituted non-alcoholic or weak drinks for employees, and the customer still paid the house price. Fraud did occur. So did claims of fraud by embarrassed men. The Seattle Saloon and Dance Hall in post-earthquake San Francisco became notorious for complaints about bogus house keys sold to drunken customers. Men paid from $1 to $5 for keys they believed would open a woman's door. The keys opened nothing. Police acted after householders found intoxicated strangers testing locks in the night. That episode was not a secret sexual service. It was a scam built on a customer's belief that a drink and a promise had purchased private access. Theft accusations were harder to judge. A wallet could be stolen by an employee, another customer, an accomplice, or the complaining man himself after he forgot where he spent his money. Police tended to believe the man with the missing watch before the woman already classified as disorderly. Newspapers enjoyed the story of the clever saloon thief because it excused the customer's choices and provided entertaining copy. The woman became guilty before anyone checked the tab. Ah Toy understood the problem decades earlier in San Francisco. In 1849, she went to court after customers paid her with brass filings instead of gold. Ah Toy was a Chinese sex worker and later a brothel owner, not a dance hall employee, and that difference should remain clear. Her case still reveals the same dispute. The men believed they could cheat a woman whose work was already condemned. She used the court to insist that a commercial agreement still had terms. Her access to that protection weakened sharply in 1854. In People Against Hall, the California Supreme Court extended a ban on testimony so that Chinese witnesses could not testify against white defendants. A woman such as Ah Toy could refuse, complain, or identify a cheat, but the law reduced the value of her word. Personal refusal means little when the customer knows the court may not hear it. Tabs created another pressure point. If a customer refused to pay, the bartender could demand money from him, remove him, or blame the employee who had encouraged the order. If she had accepted a drink outside the approved system, the owner could deny her commission. If she became intoxicated and missed dances, he lost sales. This is why some houses restricted direct tips, gifts, private drinks, and long conversations. The rule could look moral from the street, but inside, it was often basic accounting. When the money vanished, the dispute could turn violent. Then every written rule depended on the people standing nearby. The bartender, another woman, the proprietor, a police officer, or a customer willing to intervene. Kitty Leroy's death in Deadwood shows how weak that protection could be. Leroy was a dancer, performer, gambler, and saloon operator. She dealt faro at the Mint and had a public identity far beyond serving drinks. On June 11, 1877, she married gambler Samuel Curley. By December, they were estranged. On December 6th, Curley returned to Deadwood and arranged to meet her in an upstairs room at the Lone Star Saloon. Witnesses later heard conversation, a scream, and 2 gunshots. Curley killed Leroy and then himself. The room was above a saloon, but the murder does not prove the saloon routinely sold access to women upstairs. It proves that a private room removed the public protection of the barroom and dance floor. Leroy's own experience with gambling, guns, and saloon business did not give her control over a man who came prepared to kill. Weapons could help a woman defend herself, but the pistol-packing saloon girl became another lazy legend. Some women carried weapons. Mattie Silks was known to carry a pistol, and an August 26, 1877 report in the Rocky Mountain News described a disgraceful row involving Silks, Kate Fulton, and Court Thompson, who received a minor gunshot wound. Later stories turned the quarrel into a dramatic duel. The newspaper confirms a fight and a wound. It does not confirm every theatrical detail added afterward. The distinction matters because arming every woman in the story hides the real enforcement problem. A revolver required money, training, access, and the chance to reach it. It could be taken away. It could escalate a quarrel. It could also bring an arrest against the woman who used it. Owners preferred a bouncer and a compliant customer to gunfire that endangered the liquor license. Race and nationality changed whose refusal received support. On San Francisco's Barbary Coast, Mexican, Chilean, Black, Chinese, and white workers shared entertainment districts, but were described differently by reformers and newspapers. Benjamin Lloyd's 1876 account admitted that reporters invented blood-curdling scenes, yet he still filled his own pages with racial insults and claims of universal depravity. The evidence is useful because it shows the prejudice surrounding the district, not because every sentence is trustworthy. Chinese women faced especially harsh policing and trafficking. Some arrived under debt, force, or fraudulent contracts. In those cases, the first person forbidding contact might be a trafficker or brothel keeper controlling the woman, not protecting her. A city raid could free someone from coercion, but it could also arrest the women while the men financing the business stayed out of reach. Protection and punishment often arrived in the same police wagon. Owners made similar calculations with violent patrons. Ejecting one man might protect an employee and preserve order. Ejecting a wealthy regular might cost weeks of sales. Calling police could create a public record that threatened the license. Keeping quiet could leave the woman exposed. The owner was not automatically her protector simply because he had rules. His strongest concern was usually revenue, then the license, then order, and only sometimes her safety. That is why forbidden could fail. A rule against touching meant nothing if the bartender laughed. A rule against private rooms meant little if the owner rented them. A law against assault offered weak comfort when police classified the woman as the problem. A woman could say no clearly and still need someone else with physical or legal power to make the customer leave. Denver's law eventually showed the full contradiction. Sections 745 and 746 of the city ordinance targeted saloons, wine rooms, and women who served or solicited drinks. The rules forbade a proprietor from allowing a woman into a connected wine room to receive liquor. They also forbade employing a woman to wait on customers or solicit drinks in a saloon. The city described this as regulation of liquor and public morality. Daniel Cronin, a Denver saloon keeper, challenged the ordinance. The defendants included Frank Adams, John Bottom, and William Griffith of the Fire and Police Board, along with Police Chief Hamilton Armstrong. The United States Supreme Court heard the case in December of 1903 and decided it on January 4, 1904. Justice Joseph McKenna upheld the city's power to impose the restriction through its liquor licensing authority. The decision protected the city's control over the saloon license. It did not create a safer workplace for a waitress. It could remove women from paid employment, close a wine room, or punish the proprietor. It did not require a bartender to defend a woman from a grabbing customer. Government protection often meant removing the woman from the room where the problem occurred. San Francisco followed the same pattern in 1913. Denver had already barred women from serving and soliciting drinks under the challenged ordinance. Butte collected fines and regulated the district, while allowing brothels to continue. Dawson pushed sex workers away from central streets as the town became more settled. Different governments used fines, licenses, closing orders, raids, and disorderly conduct arrests. None created one universal Western rule. The woman herself remained the first rulemaker. She could refuse a drink, a dance, a kiss, a proposition, a private room, or an invitation to leave. The proprietor added another set of limits. Stay on the floor, sell through the house, do not take direct payment, do not leave during the shift, do not become too drunk to work, do not create trouble that brings police. The city added a third set. No solicitation, no women in certain rooms, no dancing with liquor, no prostitution outside the tolerated district, no conduct officials chose to call disorderly. Sometimes all three sets of rules agreed. Sometimes they directly conflicted. A woman might want to leave with a man while the owner refused because her shift was not finished. She might refuse him while the owner encouraged another drink. The city might close the entire hall in the name of protecting women who needed the wages. There was no single saloon code covering Denver, Deadwood, Dawson, Butte, Tombstone, San Francisco, and every mining camp between them. Return to the opening transaction, and the answer becomes plain. The customer bought a drink placed on the bar. He might have bought one dance recorded by a ticket. He might have paid for a few minutes of conversation, a stage show, or table companionship. In a documented brothel, he might separately negotiate for sex. Even there, payment did not erase the woman's ability to refuse a particular act or a particular man. Depending on the venue, women could be forbidden to solicit sex, enter a private room, leave during a shift, accept direct payment, become intoxicated, touch a customer beyond the agreed dance, or allow conduct that threatened the liquor license. Some rules came from the woman, some came from the owner, some came from the city. None applied everywhere, and none guaranteed protection. A customer could buy a drink, a dance, or time, but not consent.